Welcome to Call Me Negotiator. And this is Charlotte. And we're live every Thursday, 4 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. And also, we're live streaming on the Chinese platform WeChat video channel. And that is the Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. And today we have our guest, Rajan. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. We had a one-time meeting before, and I was very attracted by your energy. You were talking about this instrument.
Yes, I was talking about my oboe because I'm part of a choir.
Right.
And this semester is very special. Our director has been with our choir for the last 20 years.
Right.
And so for her 20th anniversary, she wanted to just go all out. So we have an orchestra coming as well, and she needed some more musicians, and I decided to join that side rather than singing. So yeah, I actually have it with me just outside, but it's still in this case. After this, I'm going to be doing another rehearsal.
Oh, right. Okay, that sounds great. Well, so could you walk us through your life experience, just a little introduction about yourself? Did you grow up here?
Yeah, so I was born in BC, in Surrey. My parents are Indian immigrants. Both of them came from Punjab, the northernmost province in India. They came in their early 20s to Canada and then had me and my two siblings. I lived in Surrey my entire life. Very funnily, actually, I've lived in the exact same house my entire life.
Oh.
We did move for about 11 months when we were doing new construction,
Right.
but my address has been the same for my entire life.
Okay, so you would consider more of a Canadian citizen rather than Indian.
Oh, absolutely.
Citizen, right?
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself understanding North America culture or Canada culture more, or you also understand Indian culture or Asian culture more?
I would say by virtue of living in BC specifically,
Right.
it's a good mix of both. We see a lot of good representation of many cultures, not just like Asian or South Asian,
Right.
but we see a lot of good representation of cultures from all around the world in BC specifically.
Right.
So I think that by virtue of growing up in BC, I have a good understanding of North American culture, but then also by having really strong family ties back to my home country and like with my parents and their heritage, I also have a pretty good understanding of like Indian culture as well.
Could you help us to understand Indian culture a little bit? Because I know this is a big question, a big topic. But I would say as a Chinese, right, I thought I interact with Indian people all over the world, where I worked in Qatar Airways before, and there were many employees. They came from India. And here, our lab is located in Surrey Central, where there are a lot of Indian people. And I personally think they could give me very different vibe. So when we're trying to understand how to interact with people from different countries, I think that is very important to understand their mindset, their culture. So how would you start with introducing the Indian culture?
I would say that it's kind of a spectrum. You'll find that with every culture all over. You'll find people who are nicer, people who aren't as nice, people who are shyer, people who are more outgoing. And so I find that maybe it's less just Indian people in general, and more so by virtue of being in Vancouver, where that is kind of the norm. Like you'll find places in the United States or even in like abroad in places like the UK, where it's more customary not to speak to people or to just maintain like a casual distance, a casual silence, like a softer presence,
Right.
rather than somewhere in like BC, or I've seen it much more in places like in Manitoba. I have family in Winnipeg, and very chatty place. Everybody is very talkative and very kind, and
Right.
there's always a conversation happening. And so I feel like by that virtue, it's less about who and more about where you are, because
Right.
certain places attract certain kinds of people.
Right.
In terms of being Indian, I would say that, like, at least in my experience as a Punjabi, it's a very social culture. Traditionally, you have very large, multi-generational, even like branched families where it's like you'll be living in the same area, if not the same building as like your cousins and uncles and aunts and nieces and nephews and grandparents or great uncles and great aunts or whatever. You can commonly have like 40, 50, 60 people living in like one close area.
Right.
And so you might feel like it could be difficult because you don't have your privacy or you don't have space to yourself, or there's always someone there, or you always have family responsibilities. But having lived similarly here in Canada and having sort of grown out of it, it's a really good feeling to know that you are on really good terms with all of your family. I was actually having a conversation with one of my friends the other day, and we were talking about just our extended family, right? And she's like, "Oh, I have such a big family. I have like maybe 15 or 16 people. That includes my aunts, my uncles, my cousins." I'm like, "Only 15 or 16?" And so we sat down and we started counting out all of my relatives, and she lost count after about 90.
90?
90.
90, so 90.
Yes.
Is that the culture of having so many kids, children, or
That's
it's
part
just
of it,
they
yes.
count a lot? Yeah.
It's also because like my dad is one of 3 siblings, my mom is one of 9. So there are just a lot of like aunts and uncles, and they all have multiple kids of their own. But on top of that, this is more common in like Asian cultures where you don't need to be blood related to someone. If they are close enough to your family, they are basically an aunt or an uncle.
I see. Wait, so sounds like you did visit back to India after you grew up. Does it?
Only once when I was really young. But by using things like WhatsApp and other video chats, like I do get to speak to my family in India basically every week.
Every week?
Yeah.
Wait, do you consider yourself understanding India culture well, or you think there's a big gap between people who live outside of India and in their own country?
Well, I don't really think that there's that big of a gap. I think the gap is more cultural, and the culture follows the people. So again, growing up in a very cultural household, my family has introduced me to all the traditions, the religious, the cultural, the societal. And so when I'm with my sort of North American community, you know, I know how to act because that's how I grew up. But then on the other hand, when I'm with my sort of like Indian community, I know how to act, how to behave appropriately, because that's what I was taught. That was how I was raised.
Interesting, because I feel like for Chinese people who's been living outside of China, right, there's also different part of them or different kind of groups of them. You can find a different part of the Chinese who live abroad. They probably understanding less and they relate less to Chinese culture. So I wonder if that's something that you can see it in your country, in your culture as well.
I would say that used to be the case, but again, specifically here in BC, it's the gap is closing very quickly because a lot of that stuff is, at least in Punjab, it's more of like a activity-based culture. It's not necessarily like going to specific places. It's more like certain routines, certain games, certain activities. That's the kind of stuff you do. And so as long as you have the supplies for it, you can do anything anywhere really. Like for example, cricket, the sport with the wide bat and the pins. When I was younger, that wasn't really that big of a thing here in BC. When I was in elementary school, because we had a lot of Indian students, they bought these plastic cricket sets and would teach us how to play.
Right.
But then now that I'm older, there are like local cricket tournaments with like local teams, and there is calls for like, I think there's an international cricket league happening here in North America now as well. Like there's teams participating internationally.
Right.
And so like the gap has narrowed a lot because there is a lot of interest from the people here.
Right.
So when I was younger, wasn't really as much of a thing, but like now it's come over in full force basically.
Right. A lot of people who immigrate or move to the foreign country, then turn to stay in the Chinese area, like Richmond, like you said, or I wouldn't even say Chinatown, because Chinatown really doesn't have Chinese. They have like other people who are a little bit out of the condition. But then I would say that is a safe net for people to stay with the culturally similar group. But it could also be the limitation of, let's say, a Chinese immigrant who trying to get out and get into the main society in the foreign country where they moved to. But then you feel like it's really hard to have the breakthrough. And I wonder if that's the similar case, because I know a lot of Indian people, they definitely have a lot better English skills, right? So they probably have the advantage and less fear when they're trying to communicate with others, let's say when they move to Vancouver or Canada or the States. I do see when you say cricket, I feel like when they play together, they sounds like, let's say if they're a group of Indian people, they do sounds like they all from the same background. So I wonder if that's also the trend for Indian people to hang out with Indian people.
Well, when it comes to something like cricket, it's not necessarily just an Indian thing. It's more of like something that goes beyond race, beyond culture, beyond even the country you live in. And it's a binding force that goes even further than like boundaries of like nations and whatnot. In terms of like English language, I mean, I didn't know that it was such a common thing for Indian people to be so good with English. I do know that there is a big culture in India for people to take their, I believe it's called the IELTS, the International like a Language English Assessment or whatever. Yeah. I know that there's a big culture in India for people to take that, whether or not they are planning to go abroad at all. That's just something they do. So I guess that does have a level of English proficiency kind of baked into the culture. But then in terms of like actually going abroad, one way to think about it is you look at all the major immigration hubs, like all the places people tend to go to. So there's Canada, there's the United States, there's Australia, New Zealand, the UK. And so in these countries, you'll have places that are more ethnically inclined. Like, for example, in BC, we have sort of, if you want to just generalize, you have more Chinese people in Richmond and you have more Indian people in Surrey. So there are their communities there. But then you also have to think about when these groups of people sort of came over, because there were different waves of immigration at different times. I'm not too well versed in that, but what I can say from personal experience is a good friend of mine who I went to high school with, his mother is a second generation immigrant, meaning like her parents, his grandparents on his mother's side, they were the ones who came to Canada from India.
Right.
But then on his father's side, his dad, they've been here for 6 or 7 generations. So they are Indian, yes, but they've been here for much longer.
Right.
So even when I'm just at his house and hanging out with them, just speaking to them, I can sort of feel like the difference in their background.
I see.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because even though his dad's been here longer, he's a pretty Indian guy. He has the mannerisms, he knows the language, he's very Indian coded the way he speaks. And he's an all-around great guy.
Right.
But like I can kind of tell.
I
And
see.
so it's less about where you go and who you stay with, and more how much you're willing to engage outside of your own cultural bubble.
I see. Yeah, so the environment does have a huge impact of our mindset, right? And also I see a lot of Chinese audiences, they ask like, oh, how do I improve English? Because I do want it to be more open and embrace the diversity, especially culture-wise, from the world, right? And then a lot of them do have these thoughts or concern that the lack of this environmental conditions for them to practice their English. I would say, yeah, that is very important. However, at this era, we can find a lot of different cultural and mindset and observe those different things from, I would say, videos and movies. The most important thing is that do we host a bias towards two different cultures when we trying to learn from them, right? And also, I'm very curious about for people who, like you, grew up from in Canada, right? So do you find there's a communication gap or the culture gap in between, or there's a common culture from, let's say, whatever, India or China, they can actually become the big umbrella to cover everybody?
I'll get to that in a second. It's really funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
But in terms of like learning English or just learning languages in general, I would say that now kind of is the best time. The best time is always now, because from my experience, the best way to get into a language is through immersion.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I need to find someone who speaks fluent English. I need to speak English only with them all the time, 24/7.
Right.
It's more about how well you can relate the language that you know to another language. And so a good way of doing that is through immersion, through listening to English music or watching movies in English. Of course, having a conversation with someone helps a lot, but that only makes you more aware of what you don't know. And then that kind of makes you need to study more on it later. Like if you don't know which words to use or which grammatical structures to use, then that's going to weigh on you, and that's something you have to investigate later. While if you're watching a movie or something and you hear something like unfamiliar or you hear something that kind of makes sense but doesn't stick entirely, you have the context of like, oh, I'm watching an action movie and they're flipping a car over or something. And so you can think in the context of what is actually happening at that moment.
I see. That's very helpful though. Hello, welcome back. And thank you, Rajan, to share a lot of Indian cultures, although you did not grow up in India, but then I would consider that definitely help us to open the minds. And also for people like me, have less chance to visit the country itself, then I'd love to understanding the culture from people like you, because then we live here. So we have this common language we can speak in Canada. So that is the better smooth bridge for us to understand each other's culture, instead of like, maybe I will go to a foreign country and I got shocked because we cannot communicate, and then the culture shock is too big, right? So I think that is really a smooth way for me to understand. And you talk about that your hobby is, or something you care about is health science. And what other things that you're interested about and that you're trying to learn from?
Yeah, well, again, I'm very lucky that I live here in BC, where we have so many different communities that offer so many different opportunities that I can kind of do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And it's really fun because I feel like I have done a little bit of everything. My friends like to say that I'm kind of a master at doing side quests.
What is side quest?
A side quest is like when you're playing a video game, there's like the big boss at the end, but then you have all these other things you can do at the side that don't take you directly there, but they're fun to do.
Interesting. Wait, what's your MBTI? Do you know that?
I do not know.
Well, let's say I would assume you are more towards to extroverted instead of an introverted, am I right? If you're trying to understand the world, do you really have to feel it from your five senses, or you trying to understand things conceptually?
Definitely more conceptually.
Conceptually, okay. Yeah. So you're M person. And then, another thing is like, do you consider yourself one towards to, let's say, decision making? Are you more towards to rational decision maker, or you're more empathetic, you feel people and you consider that a lot?
Definitely more rational.
Right. Okay. And then, so when you are trying to adopt a plan, trying to achieve goals and execute, do you think you are a person who have this goal set there and then you have a plan and then you just follow the plan step by step? Or do you think the goal is right here and you're just like explore here and there and then you boom and then just get there randomly?
I'm very direct with it. If I have a plan, I try to stick to it as best as I can.
Oh, so you can't just follow the schedule step by step, but because you talk about the game playing, that you also do things here and there, like explore random
and so
things.
Like as long as I have the time to get to where I need to be, then I have time to explore as well.
Oh, okay. The last one is a little confusing. Maybe I did not describe it very right. So you're either ENTJ or ENTP. J people are more like, oh, I have this plan and I'm from here and I do follow it. And the P people are more like, okay, I'm going to explore here and there. I don't really follow the plan. I get up in the morning and do this and that. And then eventually I still get there. So it's a different kind of, type.
I mean, I would still like to think I'm more of a J person,
right?
Because when I find something, I'll stick to it and I'll just go there. It's not necessarily, oh, this is my plan, and then something else comes up. It's that something else was always the plan to begin with.
For me, I'm more of a P person. So I love to explore. I think you're ENTJ, which is kind of like a commander type of people. But then you said you explore a lot of things. I mean, I just wanted to understand the MBTI to understand how people think about things and make decisions, right? And then you talk about in BC that you explore a lot. Is there something that we have in BC, the advantage we have, or it just doesn't really matter?
Oh, absolutely. The advantage is that there's so many different people of so many different cultures who bring their culture with them. And so because of that, it's not even just culture in terms of being from a specific place in the world. It's culture in terms of hobbies, interests, preferences. And so you'll find a little bit of everything all over the place. For example, I like to go roller skating, but not
roller skating? What is roller skating?
It's the boots with the wheels on them.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Except not the ones where they're in a line. The old school from like the roller discos where it's 2x2.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I go to roller discos. There's music playing. There's like the fancy lights, and so I'll skate around and I'll dance to the music and
under the fancy lights.
Yeah, it's
so all the attention is on you guys.
Yeah, not on
kidding, but you're right.
Yeah, no. I started doing that when I was around 15 or 16 years old, and that's always been really fun. I have my own custom skates that I got made. Right. Very expensive, but it's a hobby that I like doing it, and I know I'm going to be doing it for a long time, which is why I prefer putting the money down on good equipment because I know I'm going to be sticking with it. But I do roller skating. I am a musician. As you know, I play the oboe. But also more traditionally to my culture, I play the tabla, which is a set of hand drums.
Oh, related to your culture means that's an Indian traditional.
Yeah. The Indian traditional drums.
Drums, okay. Yeah. You sounds like tried a lot of things, and I guess they're not just those, right? And that's really related to.
And then that's the roller skating, the musical instruments. I also sing in a choir. This semester I'm playing in the orchestra. What is choir? A choir is just a group of people who sing together.
I see. Yeah. Oh, okay. So you do try a lot of things.
Yeah. What else? I play Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. It's a
video game?
It's not a video game. It's a tabletop game. So it's instead of like on computers, there's like a rule book. You follow the rules and you have everything written down.
Oh, yeah, I see.
And you use maps and little figurines and you move them around, and it's very like concept heavy. It's very imagination heavy.
I see.
But yeah.
Okay. I try to understand if it's something that fall into the column we're talking about as hobbies, because I also play escape room. So I'm
that's also
it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because like I would consider it as more of an activity that I ever tried, right? Because I tried so many things.
The activity is the escape room, but the hobby is that you like going to escape rooms, so you do them more often. Right?
You should be a good like motivator or something like that. Like I just do random thing, but like no, that's a meaning. There's a meaning of that.
I mean, if you look hard enough, you can find meaning everywhere. Because too many people nowadays, I feel like too many people are trying to overextend their own like idea of self. They try to make themselves more important to more people. When at the end of the day, you can't really maintain that level of cohesion with so many people. It's good to have your community and be close with them than it is to be the best person for so many random people, many of whom may not even know you or care about you.
The society have this expectation to us to become certain type of people, right? And we're like, oh, we either become like this type A student. I have to be good at doing sports because other people consider that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Or when we step into adulthood, then we must be like a good employee, we must be a good manager, and also a good husband or wife or whatever, fall into the role that society expects us to do. However, we do want to take advantage of the modern world that we live offer us. Be able to try different things to understand who we really are. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, like a good way of thinking about it is like there's an old adage, they would say it takes all kinds. In order for the world to be how it is, you need people to be different. If everybody is the same, then you don't get innovation, you don't get invention, you don't get things to change if everything is the same. And so you can't have a good society at all if everybody is the same kind of person. If everybody is all type A, book learning, hyper studious, very focused, then you'll only build something that's beneficial to them. But without considering outside perspective, you may end up making something that's to the detriment of everybody. So you need to consider everyone, all the different kinds.
I agree with that, and I think that especially could help us to benefit from the AI era, where now we have all these tools and technologies to help us to be able to do a thing that only a company could do. Like now, literally one person can use all different tools to do this, let's say 4 departments, like marketing department, and you can create your own product, and then you can become your own product salesperson, and then you can build your own system to run this whole thing, where only in the past, companies can only do that.
Yeah.
However, we need to get our own market. We need to find our own niche. And to be able to find our own niche, in Chinese, we call it 赛道, means that is your race lane, where you just like, you have to find your own, that is basically niche, right?
Yeah.
And you have to find your own lane so that you step on into it and you're so good at it because you loved it. And that is where what we call it talent, I guess.
Yeah, expanding on that a little bit, in order to find your lane, you need to go to everyone else's lane first and see what is there, what do they have, and more importantly, what do they not have? Because if you're trying to find something that makes you different, you need to know what already exists out there. And so it takes a lot of effort and energy, and also a lot of exploration. You need the time to go out there and explore. You need to give yourself deliberate time to look into, and this goes beyond just business. This also goes into things like your hobbies or education as well. In order to see what you really excel at, you kind of need to feel around. Like, for example, when I started my educational journey, I did an Associates of Science with a focus in biochemistry. But then I was doing my electives. And one of my electives, I was recommended by my brother. He's like, take this course. It's Introduction to Health Science. It's a really easy course. You're just going to get an A. It'll be good for your grades. I'm like, okay, sounds like fun. I take the course. I got an A+. But what I got that was more important than the A+, was a new perspective. I understood, as the name suggests, health as a science, not the science of health.
Right.
And so I got to I got a good experience of things like workplace injury, disability, human genetics and evolution. As well, I got to look into things like health ethics, like the choices that are made in healthcare and healthcare administration, like how certain decisions are made regarding healthcare, how certain standards are set. And this was just one course. This was just an introduction course. So I learned a little bit about everything. And that one course made me change my entire degree. And so it's like 2 degree switches, 7 years, and an honors thesis later, I graduated with a bachelor's of health science instead of biochemistry. And if it was not for me exploring, because there were other courses I could take. I have a background in French language as well, so I could have just taken a French course or something like that. But I gave it a chance. I took a risk. I explored out. I took this course instead, and the impact it made literally changed my life.
I see. I highly agree with that because I'm same type of people, right? But then I thought it related to my for the characters where I just mentioned. I explore so many things, and I realized you have to do some work that I feel just miserable. Like I really don't like to do it. However, because of that, I get that comparison when I love doing something. There's a certain things that we all love, right? Like a delicious food or having fun.
Everybody has something that they have their one thing that they really enjoy. Maybe they like doom scrolling on their phone or eating good food or going out with their friends or something. Everyone has like that little guilty pleasure of theirs.
Exactly. But then when we talk about the work we do, the work is that, we have to contribute some kind of value to the society to be able to establish our career or life pathway, right? So each work or every work require us to put our works. So if we don't have that comparison with what kind of work when we're doing, we're more engaged to it, we're more into the flow state, or other kind of work, we're just completely feel miserable. We're just like, I'm really just doing some kind of chores, or I'm just doing some labor work that I don't want it to do.
Yeah. A good way of thinking about it is you're not supposed to be happy all the time.
Right.
Happiness is a reward that your body gives you for doing something new and something that is useful and advantageous for you. It's kind of funny. A really good example of this I saw on TV was that if you think of your daily routines, if you think of waking up in the morning, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, making breakfast, the food tastes good, but the rest of it, you don't even really think about it all that much because it is routine. It's just what you're supposed to do. But if you don't get out of bed at a good time, or if you don't go to bed at a good time, then messing up your sleep schedule is bad for your brain and bad for your health. If you don't brush your teeth, then your teeth are going to get damaged. They're going to get rotten. You might get gum disease or like cavities, and then that's bad for your teeth. If you don't eat breakfast, well, then you're not priming your body with the energy it needs to start the day. And so these things, they're not exciting. They're not supposed to be exciting because they're routine. But you need to do them anyway. And so, like you said, when you have a job, or when you've worked many jobs, you know like what excites you and you know what is boring. But if you keep doing the exciting things again and again and again, then they become boring too. So it's a good way to keep yourself measured. It's a good way to keep yourself contained. You have to do a little bit of something boring in order to make the exciting stuff more exciting.
Exactly. I think what we wanted to talk about or emphasize is the exploration help us to understand the hard work is necessary. However, if we don't have that exploration, we only compare with when we're lying down the couch and watching TVs versus when we do hard works. Of course, you will feel like I hate working, right? But then it's really not that we hate working. It's really about like what excites you, right? So we try so many things, we can feel the excitement. So the excitement is what we can differentiate this kind of work. Or
even beyond excitement, there's also like the motivation that you have, be it like inside yourself or outside of yourself, right? Like a good example I have is one of my friends, her mother is a nurse and she works at a long-term care facility. And so as a nurse at this facility, her job is she has to make sure that all the patients are doing well. She has to check their vitals. She has to give them their medication and make sure that they're following whatever is in their chart, all their procedures, all their daily routines. And so because the facility focuses on people who have mental health conditions, it can sometimes be a very difficult environment to work in. She was actually just put on leave for a couple of months because one of the patients bit her. And so you would think, oh, you know, it's a tough job. You could probably get a better job like with your degree because she's an RN. So she could probably work for the government and probably make more money there. But she's staying with this job. She just got off of her leave and she's back to work because she's motivated by these people who live here. She's worked here for so long. She's developed relationships with these people in the home. She knows them all by name. She knows their birthdays without looking at their charts. She knows their family. She knows their preferences and their likes and dislikes. And so she's, even though she was injured by a resident, she's motivated to come back to work because of the job itself.
Right.
So it might be hard. She has mentioned many times she doesn't like some of the work, but she still goes back because at the end of the day, it is fulfilling for her.
Yeah, I feel the same, that when I feel like, oh, this is the kind of job or work that I'd like to do, but it still includes or contains the tedious part. However, when I try enough things, I have this comparison to see how do I feel when I do different things. And then after having some scale of data, then I understand, okay, maybe this direction would be better, probably not yet clear enough. However, I can still go there and then try more things within that niche. And then I try more, and eventually I follow by my feeling of, okay, this is what I like to do. And I see how it kind of connected the dots where I came from. And then eventually it become one day my competitive advantage. And then that is something that we would call, oh, this is our talent, or this is something we're just magically better than other people, but it's not magic, right?
No, I do agree that like talent does matter, but talent can never compare to effort or practice. And like you said, you have to try a whole bunch of different things in order to get a data set, in order to create a baseline to know how good you actually have it. But then doing this exploration, you'll learn a lot about yourself. And so it's
about learning about yourself.
Exactly, because nothing in life that is worth doing is easy.
Right.
If it's easy, it's probably not worth it.
Yeah. As somebody who grew up in China and got the foundational education in China, so I understand that the most. When I went to university, went to the college, I think I got this unlimited, almost unlimited compared with my high school life, freedom for me to explore all different kind of things.
And that's actually something that happens all over the world, basically. I would say that it's also happened here in Canada as well, where you'll see it's not even just that there's so little in high school and then so much in university. It's just that you get this immediate push because I think I can say that I've kind of shared the experience because my parents are Indian as well. And so when I was in high school, it was a lot more restrictive. There were a lot more limits on like, what I was allowed to do, who was not necessarily who I could hang out with, but like when I could go out and like spend time with my friends. And then when university comes around, I'm working a part-time job, I'm taking classes part-time, and all of a sudden I have all this time because in high school, what it was is I finish my work, I study for my tests, and when I'm ready, I'm done. And in university, you can do your assignments and study and then be done, and then still have like a whole week. So what are you supposed to do with all that time? It becomes really overwhelming, especially when you've never really done much of anything else. Because I know it's not really common in the Indian community here in Canada, but I know it's very common back in India, where, and most likely also China. I know it's a big thing in Japan and Korea, where it's a very study focused, where you wake up early in the morning, you go to school before school. Then you go to school, right? Then you go to your actual school, your actual high school. Then you go to a cram school afterwards. Then you go home.
Then you have a school after school.
And then you finish all your work. And then you wake up the next day to do it all again because everything is so academically focused. But another thing I've learned, and another thing that we're kind of seeing now as we're in sort of the later stages, because like the previous generations where this emphasis on education has happened, we're seeing the sort of fallout after, where everybody is graduating with degrees and there are not enough jobs for people who hold those degrees. And then we forget that there's so many other services that require technical certifications or technical diplomas that you can't get at a university. We're forgetting the importance of trades. A funny thing one of my friends told me, he's an electrician, and he told me that when AI comes, it will write your reports, but it's not going to unclog your toilet.
Interesting metaphor. Like you grow up in Canada, so you understand the system very well. And that's what I wanted to say is that the university has a lot more choices, I would say. Definitely more choices than the college in China. But what I wanted to even probably carefully criticize a little bit is that now they slowly moving this high school schedule into university where the students probably suffer from that. And I would say more of the system here in North America is that they offer different kind of courses and clubs for you to try, like this station, right?
Yeah.
And also like in Bark, you can learn gardening and you can go to like AI lab to join these different workshops. You can hold your different workshop, your own workshops as well.
Yeah.
So I think that space is really important. If you keep the student schedule so full, they don't have any energy to explore.
It's a pressure vessel. When it gets too pressurized, it explodes.
Yes.
You're going to lose your mind if all you do is study.
Yeah.
And so another thing that I can say is that I don't want to call it an unfair comparison, but there is one big difference I know about just Asian countries in general versus like North America, in that like universities in North America are made to be more generalized. They offer many different courses. As part of my degree in health sciences, it was mandatory that I take courses in English and in humanities and in arts and other electives that were not part of my degree, because part of the degree is to experience more of what is out there. I am required to take classes that are not related to the title of my degree. So I'm a health science major. I've taken French courses and English courses and courses in First Nations history. And so those were required by my degree. And I know it's a big thing in India that once you pass what's considered grade 12,
Right.
The colleges and universities become hyper specific. So you'll have a college that is only for engineering or only for medicine or only for accounting and finance. And so from what I know is that that also exists in China as well.
That's exactly what I would do.
We're like some of the more, and it's even worse because they're considered like the top universities, where it's like the top university is specifically only an engineering school. You go there only for engineering and they do not offer anything else. Meanwhile, over here, right beside the health sciences wing is the criminology wing. And then the First Nations Studies wing. And then just the general concourse where classes of all kinds take place. So by virtue of literally being right beside the other buildings, I have exposure to this stuff. And like you mentioned, in the library, which is like a good communal space, you'll find all these other sort of interesting things going on. Like right on the first floor is the makerspace with 3D printers and whatnot. If you go in as a student, you can sign up, take, I think it's 40 hours of like learning, and then you can just use the printers. You don't need to be a computer science student. You don't need to be in mechatronics or anything even computer or engineering related. You just need to do the training and then you can use the printers. And just on the other side of that, you have recording studios, and just behind that you have a book print, like an old type lab, where like before keyboards they had like little metal bricks that you put ink on, and then you would like press them. So like old printing presses. They have that all on the same floor, all beside each other. You don't need to be in a specific degree to use this equipment. You just need to sign up, take some training. Same with the radio station here. You don't need to be a communications major or anything. You need to sign up with the appropriate systems, do your training, and once you've done your training, you're just here. You can do what you want so long as it's appropriate for the air. And they don't really have that in China and India. It's just you want to go to the best school because the best school will get you the best job. But the best school is one thing and one thing only. You have 5,000 people all studying the same one thing. And if you are 0.5% lower than somebody else, then your entire life is worthless, which is not true. Not true in the slightest, especially when you consider principles of things like mathematics and engineering, which that's not a Chinese or Indian or English specific thing. If you learn engineering in China, the principles still apply in Canada. The only difference is maybe like the tolerances or the laws that you have to follow, the guidelines, but the basics of the principles of engineering apply all over the world. And so that gets back into the idea of like, yeah, if you learn English, then you can go around the world and bring what you have with you. Because if it's not working where you are, you don't have to feel confined to just a single place. Like when my dad left India, he didn't come straight to Canada. He went up to Finland and Sweden. And so he lived there. I even have family in Finland and Sweden who stayed there. You do have a
big family.
Big family everywhere. And so like, yeah, one of my cousins in Sweden is actually getting married. And so we got the invitation. That's going to be in Sweden. So that's going to be exciting. But like, yeah, my dad didn't just come to Canada. He explored a little bit. He did his degree in Sweden. And then he came to Canada. And he did a degree in political sciences, but he's a real estate agent now. And I'm sure that there is overlap between what he studied and what he can use as a real estate agent. But I think in Canada, the statistic is somewhere around 60% of people who graduate university with a degree, they end up working long-term in a field that's not related to their degree at all. And so it's like you mentioned, if you explore, if you put feelers out there, you'll learn not just about yourself, but you'll learn all these other skills that will make you different, make you maybe more appealing in this case. But then also, it's an Asian specific thing where they want us to be STEM. They want us to be like science, tech, engineering, math, or accounting or something. If you're not one of those, then you are a disgrace to the family and do not even look at us. Which I mean, I've heard this speech before.
Really?
Luckily, not from my parents. My parents are relatively progressive in terms of their views.
Yeah, sounds like it.
They just want me to be able to look after myself and support a family. They want grandkids. They all want grandkids.
Yeah. That's very similar to Chinese parents.
And so what people keep forgetting is like, for example, if you have engineering, you need someone to make the materials that the engineers are going to then plan to put in the building. So there's so many other jobs that are required in order to do this. If you're going into accounting, right? Well, someone needs to own the business that needs the accounting services. So if you're going into medicine, well, people need to be doing dumb things or be aging so that way they get sick so doctors can treat them, right?
They want it to be interdisciplinary.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And so interdisciplinary, multifaceted, having different skills is good, but also STEM is not as good as everyone says it is. There are so many other more fulfilling careers that can be more impactful, if not on a public level, then at least on a personal level that you should consider as well. Like, I mean, I do my music as well. I'm in an orchestra. I'm getting paid for my work. So technically, I'm a professional musician.
Yeah, right. I agree. I think in China it's the same. Like they like to compare with the major of arts and science major, like as if they're enemies. But actually you wanted to take a little bit more. You wanted to find your own pillar, like the main pillar, what you wanted to do by exploring a lot of things.
And it's even funnier because here at SFU, I know they'll offer arts versions of science courses. So for example, I did a bachelor's of science in health science. You can do a bachelor's of arts in health science. What does that mean? That means you're not taking as many laboratory courses. You're still doing more, you're still doing a lot of biology focused, like biochemistry focused stuff, but you're not doing the laboratory courses. You're doing more focus into things like health ethics, policy, law, that kind of stuff. And that matters because doctors have to follow the rules. Who sets the rules? The people with the arts degrees.
Right. I think one thing that I always share with my audiences is that one of the biggest fun that I have here is to explore all different kind of things just in the campus. Because I just walk around and see, wait, what this room is about and what that room is about. And then we have different kind of museums here. So I also attended a university in New York where they were very competitive. They were taught it was a top school. It was a top university. So somehow it becomes really similar like Chinese or Asian style, where you're so competitive because you have to be so focused and win the competition, so you cannot be really distracted. That could be one thing that helps you to win a competition. However, what SFU offers is this interdisciplinary, diverse, and cultural environment for us to explore. And what can I say? Welcome to SFU.
And if I could end off on one thing, my goal is I want to get into medical school. I'm studying for the MCAT right now, but then I have a medical mentor down in Texas. And so I've been speaking to him, and he told me a story about someone else he mentored at one point. He was a student of osteopathy, and he had amazing test scores. He was possibly the smartest person ever. He did his osteopathy exams, as well as doing his USMLEs, even though he just did his DO. So he was very smart. But whenever it came to his interviews before matching, he would always flunk out of the interviews because he was, and the way my mentor described it is creepy. He was not fun to be around. He did not know how to speak. He did not know how to have a conversation. He always had this air of superiority on him. And he always believed that his grades were the only thing that mattered and would be the only thing that would get him through. So he failed to match 3 times and is no longer a doctor.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that story. I think that really tells us a lot. Well, we wanted to hear more from you, and it sounds like you have a lot of interesting and insightful thoughts. However, we're
running out of time.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we will invite you back to be our guest, and our audiences also enjoyed your sharing. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week.